Let's see. How do I go live on this now? There we go. Oh my goodness, there's some people on there. So if you could just drop a note saying hi. I'm planning on letting people join in here and get started about 3 minutes after the hour. So let me know that that you can hear me. Let's see, can you hear me? And just a note, there is a time delay of, I'm guessing, roughly 10 to 15 seconds between when I'm actually doing what I'm doing here and what you see. So just so that you are not thinking that I'm ignoring you, it just takes a little time for me to refresh and to get to you. So a couple more minutes here, and we'll kick it off. This is it's a very strange arrangement because it's not like Facebook where you have everything built into the environment. I actually have to use a streaming software, then connect up to LinkedIn, to my LinkedIn profile, and then essentially once it's authenticated, I can start stream in the Restream web software, and that then goes to LinkedIn, and that's, I think, where most of the delay is happening, is in the transfer. I doubt it's for any kind of censorship or anything, but you never know. So, welcome, folks. I'm going to start regardless of how many people there are or are not in here, and people can get caught up. Thanks for joining on a Sunday evening. It's really nice to have everybody come online, and especially on the East Coast. It's or in I think Serge is here, and from the UK, and in the UK right now I think it's like 11 o'clock at night. I could be wrong, but I wanted to thank you all for joining. Let's get going. So, I'm a career and interview coach / mentor, and this is my presentation on how to prepare well for job interviews. Now, I'll introduce myself. I'm an accomplished technology leader. I've had the last 17 years I've spent as a technical program manager. My most recent role has been a staff engineering program manager, and at a LiDAR company. And then I've also been a certified Scrum Master since 2006, 18 years. And prior to that, I was a software. My role was as a software developer. I worked at a game company called VR1 in Toronto, and then worked for Microsoft in the Visual Studio product for the Visual C++ team. I did not give up software engineering. I've always had my fingers in code reviews and architecture reviews, and even writing code where necessary. Done everything from C++, C#, Java, Python, Ruby, Kotlin, SQL, JavaScript, PHP, et cetera, whatever was needed. I was able to get myself up. The point is, during that time, working for because a lot of these the big companies had the expectation that even their program managers should have a technical background. So, working at Google, at Amazon, Facebook, Microsoft, and Intel, I had to flex my technical skills. And during my time at all of these companies, I also interviewed people. I interviewed quite a few people, and was able to participate in decision making for hiring, as well as having interviewed 4 roles myself. So I'm coming here, essentially going to be giving you a summary of the things that have made my endeavors successful, going and interviewing for some of the hardest places to be able to get into, and hopefully you'll be able to take some of these tips and translate it into success for yourself. Now, there's no guarantees, naturally. Everything is all on you, because you need to refine your presentation and sell yourself effectively in order to be considered to improve your odds at finding and getting that job. So, and this is not just for people who are in the market looking for a job because they're unemployed or they just want to switch companies. This is also a very useful way of approaching interviewing and transferring within your company from one department to another, or even to, in the case of if you are interviewing for a leadership role with your department, it's very rare that you just get promoted to that position. They usually have several candidates that they're thinking about, and you need to go in there and essentially present yourself in such a way that you are the one that they need to hire. So, what is interview coaching? So, basically, coaching teaches strategies. And I know a couple people. I'm sure a couple people that are in here have had some time with me and have heard this before. But you want to be able to adjust your behavior, adjust how you tell your stories. And you're not adjusting your behavior in the sense of like, I'm going to present somebody completely different. I'm actually going to moderate the excitement, the adrenaline. I'm going to bring it down a notch and get myself into a sort of a Zen-like state where I'm able to speak and I'm able to listen. And I'm also not just listening to the interviewer, I'm listening to what I'm saying so that I know I'm not going to be blabbing or saying something that will essentially put a negative mark on the interviewer's page. Again, so sports teams have coaches. They spend their time teaching specific strategies, plays and practice them. These are designed not only to counter the defensive plays designed to counter the opposition's offense, but they're also to give your own offense a chance at advantage when going up against the opponent's defense. These strategies don't guarantee a win. Obviously, if you watch the Super Bowl last week or you watch any sports presentation, sports match, you can be perfect at execution on your plays, but if you don't score, or if you're not able to stop the opponent, they win. Interview coaching is similar, and that I would provide these strategies for you to be able to implement. And when you are using the strategies, it will improve how you're communicating with the interviewer, and you'll be bringing the interviewer onto your side. The interviewing candidates to fill a new role is a very, very expensive process. And so when you do get through some of these stages, especially if you get to the what they call the full panel loop, which is the day or the 2 days where you get to speak to 5 different people and you get asked about different sort of qualities, I guess you could say, leadership or ability to do the role-related knowledge, or cognitive ability, behavioral, situational questions. Once you get to that stage, you've already made it through like a pretty significant set of filters. The filters are designed to essentially minimize the number of people that they're going to be talking to. Even if it's a Zoom call, you are now taking an hour of 5 different people's time. And that is expensive. And then it's not just that hour, but it's also time for preparation. And then afterwards, a place like Google, you are writing up a review, which takes an hour or 2 and submitting it. Or like at Amazon, you're getting together with the other interviewers and you're spending the time, half hour to an hour, discussing your answers and being able to come to a consensus as if you're a strong hire, neutral, no hire, or strong, no hire. It happens. So So what you really want to do is you want to be able to present yourself in an empathetic light, be well organized, and show that you're capable of handling that stress. Because in our normal careers, our normal day-to-day life, we are expected to be able to fix things as they appear. So you're going to find that I'm going to be repeating things a few times. The reason for that is that sociologists and psychologists have said that the average person needs to hear something 7 times in order for it to stick. So, I mean, I will debate that when it comes to names because I'm terrible at remembering names. But everything else, I mean, there's certain things that that definitely take that much repetition. So my strategy for having you absorb what I'm saying here is I'm going to it's going to seem repetitive, but I'm going to have slides that are going to be presenting things, the same message in slightly different visual ways, visual cues. And that's intended so that it will stick, just like spaghetti. It will stick to the wall. So, and then what you'll find is after you remember the 5 key points that I'm going to make here, later on, you're going to be you'll probably reflect back on some of the interview situations that you've been in, and you will try to assess it against these qualities that I've essentially given you, these strategies, and see where you could possibly improve your performance. Now, there's always a good chance that you've done everything according to the book, and I'm just explaining, I'm reinforcing something that you already knew. But there is always a good way. There's always self-reflection involved to find out where did we not make that connection with the people? Where did we not communicate our value to them and to the company so that they would actually pick us over somebody else? So here's an interesting question I want you to consider. What is the first thing an interviewer notices about you when they're in the interview? Okay, I want you to think about it. We'll come back later, a few slides from now, on this, and we'll give you the answer. So this is strategy number 1. Turning the interview into a conversation. You want it to be a two-way street. I'm feeling a little bit awkward right now because normally the last time I did this was in a Zoom call, and people could literally unclick their mute button and come in and be able to ask questions. I feel like I'm just spitting it out, and I don't have anybody else with me, so I'm all by my lonesome. But we want to turn this into a conversation, and if it's either in person or over Zoom, you really want, especially over Zoom, it's more difficult actually. You want to connect with the interviewer, whether it's through some common quality or trait, whether it's through being able to laugh about the weather or something else. You both happen to have your coffee there. That's even better. But being able to come into it, say hello, smile, and get yourself into a mental state where you are relaxed and you will be able to converse effectively, which involves not just speaking, but also listening. As an interviewer, I'm always worried that somebody's going to come in and they're going to be so stressed that they'll either freeze up or they won't stop talking, and they'll be talking about things that don't matter to the interviewer. And it sounds pretty cruel to say it that way, but nerves will take people and do crazy things to them. A friend of mine had interviewed a few years earlier than me to go and work at Google, and she was somebody who when she was preparing and when she went into the interview, she really wanted to demonstrate that she was Google material, and she was a little bit too assertive. Now, Google is an interesting place because it's primarily engineers. They're an engineering centric environment. There's it's not so businessy. There are business people there, but most people are aligned towards being an engineer or a developer, and as such, they tend to be more introverted. So when you go in there, you want to be conversational. You want to keep your energy level here. She went really high and essentially scared people off. Now, the opposite is true. People come in and they clam up. And then you're doing everything you can as the interviewer to try and sort of pry words out of them. So what we want to do is to get you into the mindset of, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to just have a conversation with the interviewer. I'm going to smile. Interviewer is going to come in and say, "Hi, I'm Rob. I'm calling from Meta, and we have an interview scheduled at this time. Is this still a good time for you?" And your answer should be, with a big smile on your face, it's like, "Yes, I've been waiting for this. I've got set this time aside, and I've been looking forward to it. Thank you for taking the time to call me." It sounds cheesy and maybe a little bit over rehearsed, but if you say it spontaneously, it will be genuine because you have been looking forward to this. You're very excited to interview for this company, whoever it happens to be. And instead of being clamming up or going over the top, you're actually coming back with a friendly tone and a smile. And that immediately puts the interviewer at ease. The next thing, to be interesting and interested. So listen and don't speak nonsense. Don't go too far into casual conversation. It's still a business environment. So keep engaged and keep your wits about you, I guess you could say. Again, 100% engaged. Make sure you don't have any noise or distractions. No dogs barking in the background, no phones or anything buzzing. Sit up, not like what I'm doing right now, but sit up straight. And then when they ask a question, particularly if you're not sure of what they're asking, repeat it, but paraphrase it. Paraphrase it back to the interviewer and ask if this is indeed what you're asking for. And that kind of thing reflects very, very well on you. It also puts you at ease because you're going to say, you're going to be thinking, did I hear that correctly? You're going to then paraphrase it and ask. It gives the interviewer a chance to say, yeah, that's exactly what I'm asking for. Thank you. Well, that's not quite, depending on how direct they are, they'll say, nope, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for this. And they'll go in a little bit more explicitly into that. Both are really good. No matter what, you'll then be able to answer the right question and give the interviewer what they're looking for. I'm going to reiterate number 2. number 2. Turn the interview into conversation. So how and why do we do this? So it puts yourself and your interviewer into a good headspace, positive headspace. One of the best ways of being able to put yourself in the headspace before going into the interview is just to imagine yourself that this is essentially almost like a social meeting, that you're going for coffee with a colleague. There's some things you want to discuss or they want to discuss, but it's not a formal, I'm in a meeting room and I'm expected to walk away with this agenda having been completed. This is literally in your head. You need to be able to sit to think about it as something that is not a big deal, right? At the same time, you do want to have your stories prepared because your coffee pal is going to ask questions to learn about you. Now, Just like when you go and you meet somebody new and you're sitting down at coffee or at lunch and you start talking about what it is that you both do, the interviewer is essentially doing that. The interview process, as I mentioned before, I think I've mentioned here before, is that roughly 2.5 million people apply to a place like Google every year for jobs. And they only talk to some 10 or 15,000. And this is not me projecting. This is what I heard my first day at Google. They only talk to like 10 to 15, maybe 20,000 interview people a year. And that's the first round. Then they whittle that down to about 10. If the target for hiring is anywhere close to 5,000, they whittle it down so that by the time you go if you're going into the full loop, you have a very good chance of getting the job. They know they've already, the screen calls have vetted you. They've got your resume. They're confident that you at least have the contextual type of skills that you've presented on your resume. And what they're really looking for is, how do I handle myself under stress? Do I indeed know some of the details of what it is that I say I've done? Am I a good person? Am I somebody that they would want to work with? That's probably, as odd as it sounds, that is a significant portion of what the interview is about. Is, do I want this person on my team? Are they going to be a net positive? Not just in terms of skills, but are they going to be a collaborative and intellectually humble person? Have humility and contribute, right? So this is why you have to keep yourself in this headspace. You've made it. You've gone like 90% of the way. You've beat like 2.4 million people, 2.48 million people, right, to get to the spot. And now this is your chance to actually show that you have it all together, and you're able to speak to your experience. You're prepared, and you're confident, and you're able to win the interview, as long as you keep it a conversation and have confidence. Conversation will help you build confidence. It also, when you get into the situation where you're in your head, you think that this is a coffee clutch or coffee talk, you will then feel comfortable asking questions. All right. So it's not just a one-way street. It's a two-way street, which leads me to the very next bullet point. They're not the only one that's making the decision. You have the power to make a decision as well. You may be very, very excited and overjoyed to get in, to actually have a chance to go and work for this company, and particularly this team. But let's say you interview with people and they rub you the wrong way, and the indication is because there's more than one person who's not terribly pleasant to deal with, or is argumentative or whatever, that you have every right to think, well, this team seems like it would be a pretty nasty place to be. It's particularly evident places like Amazon, where the competition and the whole adage of exceeding the bar, right, is prevalent there. And so you want to make sure that that you can actually say no to the offer and ask to go maybe talk to another team. A recruiter, if you've made it that far, they're going to try and find the best position for you to feel successful. So lastly, I've got this highlighted in red. I've had better experiences both as an interviewer and a candidate if I've converted the interview into a conversation. It's not hard. It just takes it just requires you to essentially enforce your will and push things in that direction and get them to be able to talk with you as a peer. And then you're talking about experiences and asking and answering deep dive questions easily, because you're the one who did all these examples that you're giving. You should be at ease being able to talk about it. And when they ask you about any particular detail, it's not because they want to get you, not because they want to catch you at something. It's because they're genuinely interested, right? Again, net positive. This isn't the Spanish Inquisition. This is a conversation. And when somebody is really interested, they're going to ask you follow-up questions and try and dive into specific details. So take it as a good sign. And so we move onward and upward and turn the interview into a conversation. So have you ever had an experience where the interviewer actually came into the call and the interview was a purely pleasant experience from start to finish? Now, as an interviewer, that is my aim. I've always been told by the companies I work for that no matter what, if we're going to hire them or we're not, we want them to leave with a positive experience. And myself and a number of most other interviewers take that to heart, and we make sure that it is a purely pleasant experience as much as it can for the candidate, because we don't want them to leave with a bitter taste in their mouth. But there are times where you go into the interview and you run into somebody, and for whatever reason, they are just not in a space where you can convert them over to a conversation. They're going to be interrogating you. They're going to be openly questioning some of the things that you did, and challenging you in a more negative way. And that happens. You can't avoid that. The best you can do is essentially at that point is just live with it, answer your questions, but maintain your composure. Don't allow yourself to get frazzled. This is just one person who's had a bad mood. It's more likely that because there are a lot of interviewers out there who don't have any experience. They're either newbies at the company, and they've just taken the training, and now they're learning how to interview somebody and to observe them, and so you're going to get everything in the spectrum, including times when the interviewer themselves will ask you a question that they honestly really don't know the answer to themselves, and then you'll get into a challenge because they're going to feel, well, I work here, so therefore I should know the answer. And that's happened to me. You just have to roll with it, and you can even tell the recruiter at the end. You can say, well, I really didn't feel like it went well with this person. They were insisting that an answer was right, and I've just validated for myself that I actually gave the right answer. And so, that is something that's happened as well in the past for me. Turn the interview into a conversation. I'm going to recap everything we've talked about. I'm really spending a lot of time on this because this sets everything up. The rest of the interview goes especially well if you're already in this frame of mind. So remember, smile and be genuine. Show enthusiasm without being over the top. Don't let yourself clam up. Get yourself into a good headspace and make yourself and your interviewer comfortable. Sit up and have good body posture and look engaged. You appear. It is very much a subconscious thing, but when the interviewer sees somebody who's just slouching and leaning back, there's potential for everything from, wow, this person is arrogant, that they're so relaxed and not engaged, to like, I have to wonder, do they really want the job? When the interviewer asks if this is still a good time, answer positively, yes, I've been looking forward to this. Thank you for calling. Put yourself in that headspace of imagining yourself having a coffee or lunch with this new colleague of yours. Keep it casual, but also professional. No off-color remarks. I mean, I've heard all sorts of stuff from people commenting to another interviewer about the previous interviewer, all sorts of questionable things. And so keep it professional. I trust that everybody here knows how to do that. Transparency. Whatever you do, if you don't know the answer to a question, just say, I don't know. I've been in the cringy situation of asking a person a question, and they just start talking and talk and talk and talk until that magic moment that something pops up in their memory bank that they think is the answer, and then they immediately head off on that direction. But the 30 seconds to 1 minute that happened before that are the most cringy, painful things that everybody's ever experienced. It is, if you don't know it, say you don't know it. If you're trying to remember, or you're trying to remember a situation where something happens, just say, can I take a moment to think about this, please? It is far better to appear like you're contemplating or going back over things to make sure that you got the right answer than to just try and BS somebody. And then finally, again, in a conversation, be aware of your interviewer's body and facial expressions. That will tell you a lot about how things are going. Right. Let's go back to this question. What's the first thing an interviewer notices about you during the interview? Well, I mean, we've talked an awful lot about it, and that's your confidence and enthusiasm. Right? Use eye contact, body language, a conversational tone, and a posture of humility. And we'll talk about intellectual humility here in a minute. Wish upon a star. I live in Orlando. I couldn't help it. There's no better way to format your answers to these questions than to set it up in the STAR method: situation, tasks, actions, and results. It is something that Amazonians, the Amazon recruiters, have been reiterating and iterating to people, I'm guessing, for the last 20 years. Now, I interviewed with them in 2012, but I did well, except that I'd been at Intel only less than a year, even though Amazon was the one that was calling me and bugging me to come and join them. They said that it was too much like job hopping. But the recruiter at the time said, format your answers in the STAR method. And at the time, being younger and a little bit more, carefree and not so disciplined, I just said, yeah, right, okay. And I still managed because in my brain, I tend to organize things in that sort of manner anyways. And so telling those stories, subconsciously, I was able to do it. 2 years later, when I went back and interviewed because I was being asked to relocate for Intel and I didn't want to, and it's not that they were going to fire me, but they essentially implied I was going to be career limited. So I wanted to go someplace else where I was going to be valued. Feel like I had a path. So I go to Amazon, and I still didn't write my STAR stories, but I still told my stories in the same format, and they gave me an offer, and a very good offer. Came in at an L6 level, which was the levels are really weird. I think L6 is the senior, just before principal. I was like a high senior, and so that STAR method is very useful. As far as how do you use the STAR method yourself, in preparation for all the interviews, whether it's the individual like hiring manager interview or the full loop. Pardon me for a second. Whether it's the hiring manager or the screening, like the phone screen interview, or if it's the full loops, you want to have had preparation done for all of the interviews. There's a grand total of 5 interviews. You'll have your screening interview, and then you'll have your 4. Sometimes there's a 5th interviews in the full panel. So you want to have enough stories that you can tell. At minimum, you want to think about having 2 stories per interviewer. Some of the interviews are deep dives into one situation, so you only need to prepare one but get really deep on it. And then another interview, if you're in the technical side of things, is the system design, and so you're spending your time not telling a story, but you're solving a problem. But you want to pick out the 8 to 10 best examples of your work from your past, and then you set the context using the situation and tell the tasks that need to be completed successfully for that to be solved, and then spend most of your time on the actions that you did to achieve the result. And then the result. Use metrics in the result to really drive home how valuable your efforts were. We'll go in here again, repetition, situation, explain the situation so your interviewer understands the context of your example. They do not need to know every detail. If I'm allocated 10 minutes for this question, for this answer, 2 minutes should be spent maximum on setting up the situation. Then the tasks, those things that those milestones or those individual items that are required to remediate, to remedy, or to complete the situation, you spend a minute. You're going to talk about the tasks, the problems, and challenges you took the responsibility for completing to be able to achieve the goal. Next, you're going to spend, again, 60 to 70% of your time should be spent on the actions that you took. Whether you coded up a new set of libraries and APIs, whether you drove explicitly some major data mining endeavor to be able to build out a report, or whatever, anything that you've done that you did personally or that you drove to achieve the result is going to be detailed here. Don't forget, if you are in a management role, we are conditioned to use the word we. In an interview situation, I is the word that you use. I drove this. I executed on this. I delivered this. Right? I pushed the team to work extra hours to deliver on time. That's, those things are, you want to use the action words to show that you were responsible for the success. And then at the end, you want to talk about the positive outcomes. So as an example, like we completed integration of subsidiary 1 into the Amazon infrastructure, such that the company, or the subsidiary, was able to save roughly $2 million a year in net operational costs. Right? I used a number. I said it was operational savings, and I've given the result as to what was completed. You can say we were able to update the phone center, or the customer success software, meaning that we were able to save on average 20 minutes per call, which represented a 45% improvement in customer success efficiency. Percentages are not ideal, but they're pretty close. Percentages and money. You want to communicate that. Okay. This seems so simple. I know what it did to me when I was told to prepare these things, to prepare my stories as star stories. But yet, so many people have problems trying to get these things written and put together in this format. I'm actually coaching somebody right now who I'm helping them go through their old reviews that to pick out the specific items that they, the achievements that they had, the scenarios and things they delivered, and then percolate them down into a set of bullet points where we have 1 or 2 bullet points for the S, potentially 2 or 3 bullet points for the T, a series of anywhere up to 8 bullet points for the actions, and then 2 or 3 bullet points for results. So it seems, well, on the surface of it, it seems, oh, well, I can do that. But when you have to sit down and do the bullet points and do it in such a way as you think about them as cue cards. Now you can't see, I'm gonna see, I don't know if you're gonna get my audio anymore, but here, I'll move my window. Okay, so I moved it because I really wanted to show you that what we want to do is we want to make it simple. We want to think about it as if we're telling what it is we do to our parents or to our 3 and 4 and 5-year-old children, because this is a situation where your interviewer is doing 2 things at the same time at minimum. Generally, they're taking notes as well as listening, and I definitely don't do that terribly well. I actually, in interviews, I wait. I will only take jot notes on a piece of paper during the interview so that I'm fully engaged with the person. And then I go back and I use my little jot notes as ways to jog my memory to actually go and write my review summary. But others will be sitting and typing along with your responses, and you need to keep it simple, and you need to keep it along on a timeline, continually moving forward. Do not jump around in the continuum. You want to have a straight line story that goes from point A to point B and is super crisp and clean. Additionally, like we've talked about now, how we travel horizontally, on the vertical scale, we want to keep it at the 10,000 foot level. If 100,000 feet is I see no detail whatsoever, if 100 feet is I see a ton of detail, more than I want to know, 10,000 feet is ideal for this. Let the interviewer drive the questions that dive deep into the specific items in your story they want to know more about. You dive in deep, you talk about it, you give them the answer, have the interaction there. As soon as they appear to be satisfied, or if they've said, well, thank you, okay, great, you jump back up to 10,000 feet and you continue on with your story. Right? Sometimes, like myself, I like to let the person finish the story before I go back and I dig in. Sometimes often the interviewer will stop you and want to dive in deep. It's different styles, but that's how it goes. Lastly, again, the reason why it's so important to keep things moving on a continuum going forward is just like you're going to tell a bedtime story to your child or to your nephew or niece or grandchild. If you start to jump around and they get a little confused, it essentially wakes them up. They're starting to ask questions. And the purpose of telling the bedtime story is no longer valid. You've just woken them up. You don't want to put your interviewer to sleep, but you want to make it super easy for the interviewer to be able to take the notes and walk away having understood the stories that you told them. If the interviewer can go away, naturally they'll paraphrase, but if they can go away and tell your story completely with the things that you highlighted as being important, then you've won. I'll say it again. If the interviewer walks away and is able to tell your story, even paraphrased, but calls out all the things, the actions that you have deemed to be important to the success of the situation and the results, you have won that interviewer. You've won that over. Okay? Very important. So, ask clarifying questions. This is particularly important when we talk about those roles where we have to do system design, or we're given a vague problem that we need to solve, and we are expected to do it in real time. So they ask you, like, can you please design a website that helps me adopt cats? And your next question is, so you're asking me to design a website so that people can go there and go through a list of cats and pictures and choose a cat and adopt them. And they'll say, correct. Do we have an area that we want to serve, or is this going to be worldwide? We're going to think about the Bay Area. I'm literally giving you a question that I got from the Meta interviewer, and so you go through, like, are we hosting the pictures? Are we going to be hosting the media? Are we the ones that are actually going to be responsible for doing all the arrangements to adopt the cats? Or are we simply just a clearinghouse, or a place where we are aggregating data and putting it into a single page or a single site, and then when they click on adopt this cat, it takes them to the shelter or humane society that actually is hosting and taking care of the cat? Yes, that's what we're going to do. So you keep asking these questions, and you keep defining, finding and isolating the problem. Similarly, like, so let's say if you don't understand a question the interviewer asked you, just, the way that they've phrased it or whatever, you're left trying to figure out yourself, what is it they're asking and what story should I tell them? Paraphrase and ask them if that's correct. Get them to provide a little more detail if possible. It's a conversation. It's a interaction. We talk back and forth. In my role as a technical program manager, if I'm going into a VP's office and they're asking me to start up a specific project and to build a project plan for it, and they just show me a back of napkin drawing and tell me, well, this is for kids, and it's my job then to ask all the relative questions. There's an amazing scene in a movie called The Hudsucker Proxy, where Tim Robbins is the patsy that's coming in to be the CEO, and Paul Newman is setting him up to be the fall guy, cause the stock to drop, and then they can all go in and buy all the stock back from the shareholders, and then put things right and make millions of dollars because they've just swindled their shareholders. And Tim Robbins has a back of napkin drawing. It's just a circle. He tells Paul Newman, I have an idea. It's going to be huge. And shows him this page with a circle on it. And Paul Newman is looking at him like, are you kidding me? Doesn't ask any clarifying questions. Just says, okay, kid, we'll put a team on it, and you can work on it right away. And so, little do we know, but Tim Robbins is going in the factory talking to designers and stuff, and he's come up with a concept for the hula hoop. And of course, the hula hoop is profoundly successful, and it thwarted the plans of Paul Newman and the board. And it was their fault because they didn't ask those clarifying questions. You want to be successful in the interviews, definitely ask those clarifying questions. Make sure that you understand what is being asked of you. Paraphrase what you've heard and ask if this is what they are asking. Confirm the story you're telling is answering the interviewer's questions. So if you're going down and starting to tell a story and you notice their facial expression and their body language is starting to look a little uncomfortable, you stop and you say, is this really answering what you're asking me to give you? Is this giving you what you need? If they say no, then, well, I have another story. Let me get started. And you want to do this as soon as possible. You to notice that. Let's now proceed with a different story. Tell your stories written using the STAR method as cue sheets. I advocate doing bullet points because you can isolate it down to the essence of what each of those actions and tasks and situation and results are. You do not write a narrative. Don't look like you're reading it off the page. Just keep it as cue cards in order to remind you to cover everything that you've deemed important prior to the interview. Intellectual humility. There it is again. Geez. There's always a better way than how you originally solved this problem. But in the situation that happened at the time, that was what you and potentially a team came up with as the best possible solution for the constraints that you were given. That is a perfectly valid answer. Be prepared for the interviewer to stop you mid-story to ask deep dive questions. Observe their facial expressions and body language and be likable. Be transparent. So don't BS, right? We've talked about it. Somebody who starts to answer the question, they don't know what they're talking about, but they're going to answer and they're going to be watching you to see what your facial expressions are so they can get a clue as to, is this what they mean by that? No, ask a clarifying question first. And then if they still don't, if you really haven't got the experience for it, if you can't tell a valid story, just say, I haven't done that. But I have done, and you think about maybe a parallelism, something that you've done that is similar to, but not exactly. That is always a much better path. It's part of intellectual humility to show that you're capable of seeing and stating where you don't have that experience, where you don't have that knowledge. Again, that's what I said. If you haven't done it, say it. Say that you haven't done it. 5 traits of highly intelligent people. Every company, as you know, has gone through as I've gone through all the interview training for Microsoft, for Intel, for Amazon, Google, Facebook, etc. Everybody has these specific qualities that they're looking for, and the root of all the qualities is that you are highly intelligent. The most highly intelligent people are the ones who understand that they don't know everything and that they haven't solved for everything. So, just like I came into a design review at Google with a senior fellow who was a cloud architect. And he delivered his presentation talking about the design of how he was going to build these virtualized zones. And at the end of the 40 minutes, he said, well, I'm done now, but I really feel like I've missed something. There's something nagging at me that it's probably plain as the nose of my face, but I can't see it. And so we were tasked with asking questions and pointing out things and asking him to answer certain things. And there was a kid there from Stanford, an intern. He wasn't even like an advanced intern. He was an undergrad intern, like second year, comp sci. And he asked one question, and the look on the fellow's face was like, eureka. And if you're able to do that was one of those pivotal moments for me, that this guy who's respected in the industry is asking anybody to come in and poke a hole in their solution and be able to help to find the problem before we start implementing and rolling it out and then running into issues. That was something that it opened my eyes. You intellectually know that this is the right thing to do, but it still opened my eyes at the time as to how powerful intellectual humility is. Obvious signs and observations are a valid data point. They're always analyzing their own solutions, going back and reviewing, and especially their thought process. Trying to determine, is there a way that I can make my skill set stronger? They're intensely curious. They're not happy just to be able to come up with a solution for this one problem that fixes the symptom. They're the ones who will continue diving until they find the root cause. And then finally, this is something that that is immediately noticeable with somebody, is they're able to take a complex problem and see it as a collection of simple problems. So there's a principle, the Pareto principle, where 80% of the issues are caused by 20% of the code, or 20% of the causes. And if you're able to take that problem and break it down and isolate it to several small problems, and then solve for each of the several small problems, there's a high likelihood that you're going to solve one or two of these problems, and it will take care of the majority of the 80% that you've encountered. And that is a very valuable trait for just about any industry, any company. They'll bend over backwards for a person like that. Now, I've said, like, if you work with me, we'll work on getting you into that mindset. But of course, it's an adjustment in how you view things. So be aware that that's something that's some people take a long time to accomplish. Finally, because we're getting close to the end of our session, and I'm sorry this is going a little long, but the fable, do you have any questions for me, from the interviewer? So do not go into any interview, even with a recruiter, unless you've looked up the company, looked up the team, the role that you're interviewing, that they're presenting to you to interview for, and potentially even the team that they've said that they're going to put you with. And try and find out as much as you can about, you can go to Glassdoor, you can go and read about the technology that they're working on. You can go and look at the financial results. You can go and see where the breakdowns are, especially a place like Google or Facebook. You can actually isolate the revenues according to the division that you're going to be interviewing with, and have some questions. The idea that you don't have any questions means that you're absolutely disinterested. You're going through the motions because, and to a recruiter and to a hiring manager, to them it means you're just looking for an offer that you can then take to your boss potentially and have them give you a promotion or increase your pay. That it's or you've got something else going on and this is your fallback. This is not your first choice. And so you want to appear prepared. You really want to ask those questions. I have 2 questions here that are really good. When you're talking to the hiring manager or one of the senior executives, what can I start doing on day 1 that would make me, you, and the team more successful? That immediately makes the person in charge sit up, because they recognize that this is somebody who's a team player. And for you, it provides you with what is the most burning problem that they're trying to solve. Because you wouldn't be getting interviews for this role. No, they wouldn't be searching around spending that much money on interviewing people if there wasn't some burning problem that needed to be solved. And if they tell you what it is and it doesn't seem interesting to you, and let's say you just happen to have a job that you're not terribly anxious to leave, as soon as they tell you what the problem is and what you're expected to do, and if it doesn't appeal to you, you can always say no. That's, again, the power of no. You have every opportunity to be able to audit and reflect on the company and what they will do for you. For peers and for people from other departments, I always ask this question. It's like, what do you most like about working here? It's a fluffy question. Nobody's going to say anything totally negative about what they're doing there. It's pretty rare. Part two is, if there was one thing you could change, what would that be? That's where you get the money answer. That will tell you the culture. That will tell you, because the thing I'm going to start doing on day one is going to be the task or the assignment or the deliverable that is most crucial. The what would you most like to change question is, how do I like working here? Like, what are the things that drive me crazy? And if you're in some sort of position of direct or indirect management, that's the opportunity you have to make an impact on the team, if you find that you want to stay in this role and pursue it. When I went to Google, I made the mistake of picking the wrong team to go to, and it was a very difficult time. So now I'm very much aware of the power of no. I'm going to be following my own advice on that. With the interviews, they know nothing about salary. They know nothing about benefits. They know nothing about what level. They probably don't even know, many of them don't even know about the team or the job that you're interviewing for, because they're coming from parallel teams and they're part of an interview pool. So don't necessarily ask them. You can ask the hiring manager, because you're going to be reporting to them. You can ask them about the challenges and about the team and how they grade people, and et cetera, et cetera. But everybody else in the interview loop, stay away from the salary, benefits, and et cetera. Even the hiring manager doesn't have anything to do with salary and benefits. That's recruiter questions. So now's the time where I get to tell you about my services. So this is a very soft sell. My clients come in usually feeling like they're stuck. They've gone through several interviews, and they've achieved a measure of success because they made it to a specific point in the process, and then they either get ghosted or they get a negative response. And so, or even worse, they go to the recruiter and they don't get past that. So what I represent is somebody that you can come and you're going to talk to me. We're going to talk about how you approach things. Oftentimes, if you don't have a specific thing that you know that you've done that is put the kibosh on progress, we'll actually go through a mock interview, and I will come back and tell you what it is that I noticed that has probably limited you. And then we talk about how do we fix that. The great mentors and coaches have an independent perspective and all the experience in the world. So they're able to listen to what you say and offer advice and feedback on how you should try to change how you present yourself to be able to get better results. Again, we can't guarantee any wins, but what we can do is improve your odds. And that's what I do. A couple people that may be still on here would be able to attest to that. We've gone over and they've been able to get a really good role for the company that they were targeting. And it's all just because we worked on confidence, conversation, writing stories, asking questions in return and paraphrasing, and then asking the end questions that really shut the lid on how good they feel you are. So in closing, I will help you to project confidence and skill effectively. I will help you to develop that intellectual humility and be able to then emulate it. Pick and develop stories from the best examples from your career, and then we'll be able to rehearse them and get them to a point where you can deliver them nicely, smoothly, and in such a way that that it will be easy for the interviewer to be able to grok and make notes on and be able to assess. And then at the end, we will get you to ask great questions of the interviewer. Be confident but humble, control your emotions and nerves, listen, be an active listener, and be observant, and then change your actions to fit the reactions that you see. So everybody loves me. No, they don't, but these people do. These were really, really great, but not unique reviews. Today, I posted something on a review from another client on LinkedIn that reflects this kind of feedback. And so I definitely take it personally that you are a focus of mine and your success reflects on me. So whatever I can do to help you, I will do that. Finally, good luck. So I'm going to answer the question that used to be the title of the slide. What will interview coaching do for me? It provides strategies to improve your performance and your odds of landing the role. Okay, once you get to the interview stage, don't choose a job. Choose a leader, interview them, ask them hard questions, such as, how are you going to help me to be successful? And in return, what can I do to make me, you, and the team more successful? So if you're interested for more information, you can find me on the web and book time right now. Richard and Patricia and Tabitha and a few others have been working with people doing brutally honest resume reviews for $2 a minute. And so I've adjusted my rates to that rate for a time while we're going through this terrible process of trying to find jobs because because everybody's unemployed. Take advantage of that. The rates are great. I'm cheaper than just about anybody out there. There's people on LinkedIn who are trying to sell their services for like group services for $3,000 and one-on-one coaching services for $10,000. And they will work with you until you get a job. And they admitted that like one person, it took them 13 months after they joined to find their next job. And meanwhile, they've paid $10,000 for that service. Might be a great value for the amount of time, but it did not get the result that they were looking for. I'm going to get you to a point where you can go in confidently and present yourself in such a way that you're going to score very high on the interviewer's range, and you will improve your chances at being given the offer. So thanks very much for sticking around. One person dropped off. Is there any questions at this point? You can type them in the comments here, and I'll see them on the screen. Okay, well, if there are no questions, I'm giving it a little time here because of the delay. But if there are no questions, thank you very much for joining me, and I wish you the best. Take these hints and tips and do with them what you may. And if you need to help to go over any of this stuff and to refine things, then you know where to find me, because you found me on LinkedIn and you joined as a result of my posts. So you can always reach out there, or you can go to the links that I've provided and have been put in my profile in several places. So thanks very much, everyone. Have a great evening. Have a good Sunday. Happy President's Day, and please leave kind remarks for me about the presentation. Much appreciated. Thank you, and good night.